Welcome back to the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Games and Things. When I was a kid, folks, I spent endless hours at the pool table we had in our basement. Just loved it. My friends loved it. Everyone loved it. Well, if you want that kind of entertainment in your home, turn to Games and Things. One of the top 20 old housing dealers in the United States, number 12 to be exact. They know pool tables. They got great deals on them. They got all kinds. Visit them where Lovell Road meets Kingston Pike out in West Knoxville. You're going to be impressed with their showroom, or visit them online, ourgameroom.com. But when it comes to old housing pool tables, which is the name in pool tables, you can't beat Games and Things. Get with them this week. All right, the SEC is going to tackle divisional realignment with new schedule formats when they meet in a couple of weeks, all because Texas and Oklahoma are coming into the league. The ACC is doing the same right now, and it sounds like they're going to dump divisions altogether and just give everyone 3 permanent rivals, and then you rotate 5 teams every year or two, to where in 4 years you play all 14 teams in the ACC. I threw this out last year for the SEC that you just do the permanent rivals and protect a lot of permanent oldest rivalries, and also see each other more often. Well, the ACC is probably going to do that. It sounds like the Big Ten is looking at that as well. The SEC, there's a possibility they do the 3 permanent rival thing. There's a possibility they do a pod system. I don't think they're going to do divisions, but we put this up here too to show you so you get an idea of it. I want to show you what they're going to do. Don't worry, it's not going to be too complicated, but let's take a look. The 2 divisions. This is the first option. If you do this, you'd add 8 teams in each division. Basically, Alabama and Auburn would move to the east. You see the west there. I'm not a fan of this because basically you're telling LSU, Mississippi State, and Ole Miss, you're really not in the SEC anymore. We're just shoving you out with all the new guys.
Yeah.
And I think
welcome to the Southwest Conference.
Yeah, I don't think they'd like that. I don't see this happening because the other thing you'd do, it would be a 7-2 schedule. You'd play the 7 teams in your division and you'd rotate 2 every year. So the quickest you get through the rotation would be 8 full years. It would take you 8 years to play everybody in the league. Now it would protect the most of the long-time rivalries. I went through and looked at all the 75-game matchups, the series that have gone at least 75 games between all these teams. Oklahoma, Missouri, Texas, Oklahoma, that you don't consider SEC rivalries. They are now. Well, only 4 would be lost, which is pretty good. The downside is you face everyone less, okay? Now, let's take a look at the next. This one's getting a lot of pub. 4 pods. 4 teams would be in each, and you see it there. I just threw out names just to give it I could have done 1, 2, 3, 4. But you got Arkansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, Texas. Most people think you would split Texas and Texas A&M. Texas A&M isn't really eager to be with Texas. They love LSU. LSU tried to get A&M in the conference back in the 80s, so they work well together. So the Southwest, or the far west, whatever you want to call it, Arkansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, Texas, the West. Then you got the Central, as I'm calling it, but that would be Alabama, Auburn, Tennessee, Vandy. I don't mind that. I could live with that. That makes sense. You place those 3. Tennessee would play Alabama, Auburn, and Vandy every year, and then you play a 3 schedule. Those are your 3 permanents, and then you play 6 other teams. The next year you play 6 teams. So within 4 years, you faced everybody in the league home and home. I think that's a win. The problem is you lose 11 games like this, 11 long-time games. You would lose Auburn and Georgia on a yearly basis. Mm-hmm. That is the oldest rivalry in the SEC. It's 126 games. That's rough, but you do face everybody more often. And then finally, the other thing, this is what the ACC is looking at. This is what I like. 3 permanent rivals. And you can break it down what those 3 rivals are any way you want. I went through, you just have one big standings board like you do in basketball, 1 to 16. You play a 3-6, so you'd say play the same 3 every year. I had Tennessee's 3 oldest rivals, Kentucky, Vandy, and Alabama. You'd rotate 6 at a time every year, so you would get through, you'd face everybody in 4 years, and you only lose 6 of those old-time classic rivalries. You keep more. And if you're looking at that thinking, wow, look at Auburn, Florida, Georgia, Alabama, that'd be tough. If you're rotating 6 teams, I don't care if you got 3 goods or 3 bads, you're going to be playing a tough schedule in this league. And if you do the division thing, and a school like Auburn would be playing Florida, Georgia, and Alabama anyway. All right, so there's 3 different ways of looking at it. My guess is the division thing isn't going to happen. That doesn't mean that you guys can't all say, I prefer divisions. So you can look at it and say it's all about preserving rivalries. You can look at it and say it's all about facing everybody more often and making it feel like a real conference. I don't know what your takes are, so let's get them right now. Chuck, do you have if the SEC goes to one of these 3 plans, as a Tennessee fan, you're an unabashed fan, Which would you prefer?
I like the 3 permanent rivals. I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense. The question I would have would be, how does it impact the SEC championship game if you keep that?
And I was about to say, you're keeping it. The trick would be just you take your top 2 teams.
Right. And so then you might get some time. But no, I mean, I'm so tired of not seeing like another team in the SEC. It seems like 16 years. Or, that they don't come. This way it's like a Ferris wheel. It keeps it rolling. Somebody gets off, somebody else gets back on. I think the 3 permanent rivals by far to me makes the most sense.
Vince, which way would you go?
Well, to me, preserving the rivalries, that would be secondary to playing everybody within a 4-year period where for some of your players, they get a chance to experience everybody in the league. It's been too long since we've had that. Guys go 8 years and beyond and never see any teams. To me, that stinks for a college athlete. And we're supposed to be going to more things towards a student athlete. I think, though, the 3 permanent would be the more likely way they would go. I think divisions are going away in college football. So I think I would be okay with the 4 pods because you still have the rotation. But I think the 3 permanent would probably be the best and most likely to happen.
What do you think, Josh? Where are you going?
Yeah, 3 permanent opponents. Divisions makes no sense now. So it's not going to make any sense with 16 teams. So I would get rid of that. I would go 3 permanent opponents. Pod system can work too, so if that's preferable. But I think the 3 permanent opponents, with the way that would work scheduling, 1 through 16 in the conference, figure it out that way.
Bob?
I'm going to go the same way. I'm going to go with the permanent opponents, but I tell you what, I just wonder if protecting rivalries is even a thing anymore. I mean, look at the changes you have in this sport over just the past year. Okay, if it's going to change, let it change. Let's go ahead and get all this change done. So I don't even know how
say as best you can, but
protecting rivalries. I mean, here's the deal.
That's why I like the 3 permanent rivals, because it does both.
I like them too.
Yeah.
More of them, but it also gets you to play everybody.
Yeah. But the changes that are coming, hey, just change it. Let's get it done. And let's play football.
The only version that would have Tennessee lose a longtime rival would be the 4 pod systems. The 75 you talked about, that would be Kentucky, and that's it. The other ones you preserve, like you said, John, you preserve your longtime rivals, and you still get. And I know you can complain, well, we got to see Alabama again. Like you said, it's going to be tough and ridiculous regardless.
Yeah, everybody's going to. The thing that this would do is right now Tennessee and Auburn are the only 2 schools that every year play Alabama and Georgia.
Right.
Now, if you went to the divisions or some of the, more teams are going to be facing Alabama and Georgia and Texas and Oklahoma and LSU and A&M. It's going to be tougher for everybody. I mean, it's just going to be anybody who's thinking this is going to be great for their school's records. I include Alabama and Georgia in that. Mm-hmm. You start playing more tough teams in the league every week, I think it's going to be tough on everybody's record.
Can I just say one more thing about preserving rivalries? In my house, with 2 guys under 30 years old, their rivals are Georgia and Florida. So it's not as easy as sitting here and you look at the games played and you go, okay, this is what we're going to do. I mean, I would hate to see Florida go away, and it doesn't make it as far as some of these things. So I just think let's just go ahead, throw them in there in the mix and see what comes out. It's still going to be the SEC, and you're still going to see a lot of people with this plan a lot more often than I like.
Right.
Well, that would mean that you're almost, well, let's see this. Does anybody have a problem having one big standings board, 1 to 16?
It's not.
Would you prefer to have 4 divisions, even the 4 pods, even if they don't mean anything? Because you're still going to, if you have 4 pods, you're still taking the top 2 records and putting in the SEC championship game.
Yeah, the pods is for just scheduling purposes, right?
Yeah. I mean, does anybody like this? Do you have a problem with standings? Just seeing 1 to 16?
No,
okay.
Exactly.
Okay, very good. Then you made a good tease for what we're doing next. If the SEC just handed Tennessee 3 games, let's say they do the 3 permanent rivals, and all the schools will make their request, and they'll try and match all that up as best they can. We know that. But let's just say the SEC hands you 3 games. What would be the 3 most interesting games for Tennessee fans? Maybe an annual rivalry kicked up with Texas. You may look at it and say, no, we've got to get Mississippi State on there. We'll debate. Let's find out what are Tennessee's 3 best options if we're permanent football rivals, because the SEC is going to do this later this summer. Let's get ahead of the game. That's next. Come on back.